I'm Alan Spears with Occupy Democrats, and folks, we just watched a visibly feeble and confused Donald Trump stumble and lie his way through a press conference he just held at Mar-a-Lago. For days now, Trump has actually been missing from the campaign trail, seemingly not wanting to hold any major events for fear that he couldn't draw the same numbers as Harris and Walz have been drawing in. As Harris and Walz are in the midst of a whirlwind tour of key battleground states, they are drawing in quite literally tens of thousands of people in each of their major rallies. We saw thousands of people lined up and actually parking their cars off of the road and jogging to the rally point as they gathered to witness Harris and Walz campaigning together in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We also saw Harris lay a smackdown on a heckler in Detroit, Michigan, once again in front of thousands of people that are excited and energized to support her. Now, rather than Trump stepping up and trying to up his game and trying to hit the campaign trail, it does seem that he is rather content to just bide his time in Mar-a-Lago golfing. However, it would seem that his little vacation in Mar-a-Lago has not prevented him from seeing the news that Harris and Walz are drawing in way more people than he has ever been able to draw in at any of his rallies. And let's just say that he's not taking it very well. Now, I have a few clips that I want to show you today, but in this first clip, Trump compares his rallies and his campaigning turnouts to that of Martin Luther King, and it is exactly as insane as that sounds. Take a look and see for yourself what he had to say.
Never see the picture of the crowd. The biggest crowd I've ever spoken. I've spoken to the biggest crowds. Nobody's spoken to crowds bigger than me. If you look at Martin Luther King, when he did his speech, his great speech, and you look at ours, same real estate, same everything, same number of people. If not, we had more. And they said he had 1 million people, but I had 25,000 people. But when you look at the exact same picture, and everything's the same because it was the fountains, the whole thing, all the way back to from Lincoln to Washington, and you look at it, and you look at the picture of his crowd, my crowd, we actually had more people. They said I had 25,000, and he had 1 million people, and I'm okay with it because I liked Dr. Martin Luther King. Yeah.
Do I even really need to tell you that that was an unbelievable lie? Do you really even need me to say that? Clearly, Trump is a little butthurt at the fact that Harris and Walz are absolutely surging ahead, and the gap between their campaign and his is widening in each and every poll. To even begin to try to make some semblance of comparison between himself and Martin Luther King Jr. is absolutely ludicrous and an insult to the King name. Now, not only was this press conference an utter disaster and just filled with very blatant and rampant lying, it was also a clear demonstration that Trump is clearly in some sort of mental and cognitive decline, as he was getting really angry. In the second clip I want to show you, Trump is so visibly frustrated and is just so desperate to have the attention that Harris and Walz are clearly enjoying right now that he immediately starts lying about the numbers that showed up to Harris's rally. We have photos, we have videos. They far surpass Trump's. Go ahead and see for yourself how Trump stumbles and lies his way through this very word salady answer in one of the clearest displays of his cognitive decline that I've ever seen.
Oh, give me a break. Listen, I had 107,000 people in New Jersey. You didn't report it. I'm so glad you asked. What did she have yesterday? 2,000 people? If I ever had 2,000 people, you'd say my campaign is finished. It's so dishonest, the press. And here's a great example. I had in Michigan recently 25,000 people, and 25,000 people we just couldn't get them in. We had in Harrisburg 25,000 people, and 20,000 people couldn't get in. We had so many. Nobody ever mentions that. When she gets 1,500 people, and I saw it yesterday on ABC, which they said, oh, the crowd was so big. I have 10 times, 20 times, 30 times the crowd size. And no, they never say the crowd was big. That's why I'm always saying turn around the cameras. I'm so glad you asked that. I think it's so terrible when you say, well, she has 1,500 people, 1,000 people, and they talk about, oh, the enthusiasm. Let me tell you, we have the enthusiasm. The Republican Party, and me as a candidate, but the Republican Party has the enthusiasm.
Oof, that is not looking good, and as you might expect, it was nothing but lies. So, obviously you can see on screen right now that what Trump was saying was, once again, an absolute lie. There was not just 1,000 or 1,500 people in attendance. By all estimations, there were around 12,000 people in attendance to the Eau Claire rally in Wisconsin just yesterday. And I know that you know Trump is absolutely lying when he says he had over 100,000 people in New Jersey. That is, of course, an absolute exaggeration. In fact, according to Fox News' own Jesse Waters, there was only around 30,000 as an estimate to his largest rally. But the people who turn out in the rally numbers, you fully expect Donald Trump to lie about. He just cannot help himself. He is a compulsive liar and a narcissist. What I really kind of want to focus on here in this last moment is just that frustration he showed at the beginning of that question. I mean, seriously, most of the time when Donald Trump lies or he's asked a question, he does remain relatively composed. He writes it off or brushes it off saying, fake news or the media is lying or they're, part of the Democratic ploy or any number of different conspiracies. But seeing that frustration, seeing him just so exasperated by the very nature of the question, it's like music to my ears. Throughout the entire conference, he seemed to struggle to articulate himself. He had a really difficult time hearing what the reporters were asking, and the fact that so many of his answers were so rambling, more so than they normally are, really indicates to me that Trump is in a very bad mental state. Clearly, with Trump's mental state in total disarray in the Republican Party, trying to cover up his cognitive decline, I call on Donald Trump to officially announce that he is withdrawing from the presidential race in 2024. It would be elderly abuse to allow Donald Trump to continue running as the Republican nominee, so I think it would be best for all of us if he dropped out.